Welcome to Bariatric Business Accelerator, the podcast created for busy weight loss practitioners and their teams who want to simplify, systematize, and accelerate the growth of their new or existing weight loss practice. I'm your host, Carol Clark, and today we are talking about a topic that we all wish there was just a button to make it happen, and that is fixing your frustrations. It's kind of like our patients who come in and just want that magic pill so that they can lose all their weight right away and feel great and be able to keep it off. We feel the same way oftentimes in our businesses or in your practice. And so what I typically will find when I work with any practice is that there are certain frustrations, whether it is something related to slow growth, lack of new patients, maybe too many patients, maybe the wrong payer mix, maybe just wanting to establish something new. Maybe they've built something that originally started as one vision and has gotten out of control, and it's become and morphed into something that they barely recognize, and they are just exhausted, both they are and their team. So fixing frustrations will usually come down to one of the 6 systems that we talk about all the time in Bariatric Business Accelerator, and that is really the systems of your team, your care delivery system, your marketing, your finances, your revenue streams that you have, and also your metrics or lack thereof. So typically though, as practitioners, business owners, or someone who works in the practice and has been there either a short time or a long time, we usually in our gut kind of know what's going on. We just perhaps don't want to recognize it. We don't want to address it because maybe it's going to create an uncomfortable situation with another owner or team member. Perhaps it's something that just seems so overwhelming because it's gotten so out of hand. Maybe it is something that's going to create more pain for you in the short run. Maybe it's a team member who's just not working out and you've spent so much time and energy and it's just really adversely affecting the practice, or maybe it's just some patient practices that you do or don't have in place, or team training that you do or don't have in place. But bottom line is, when you're frustrated about something, and usually, like I say, it's related to one of those 6 systems, in your gut or in your heart, if you pause and take a minute to figure it out, you usually know what it is. It's just a little too painful to deal with right now. So I oftentimes get to come in and take a look at what the biggest frustrations are. And even just for people who are in membership, who maybe we're not doing a deep, like intensive practice building session together or a time frame together. In membership, we meet every single month and we talk about these frustrations and how to overcome them and set plans and see action coming. But when you feel that frustration, oftentimes, like I say, you know what it is inside, and then it's just a matter of recognizing that and putting a plan in place to correct that. So for example, I recently went into a practice and one of the biggest frustrations was they didn't have trouble getting more patients. They had plenty of people coming through the door. The problem was that the schedule was getting so out of hand in the office that the team members were having to stay later into the night than they wanted to. The physician was getting so burnt out. The extenders were burnt out. The patients were frustrated because their wait times were increased because everything was so backed up. And it was just something that's been going on for so long that nobody really knew what to do about it. And those that might have had a clue about it didn't feel like it was their role to come and make those suggestions. And perhaps the people who could make those decisions were just so overwhelmed. It was something that they just couldn't deal with at that time. So coming in with a fresh perspective and actually sitting down with all of the lead team members, anyone who had people underneath them, I actually was able to unveil that a lot of them had they all had the same gut reason as to why this was happening. And there was a simple fix that they actually wanted to participate in making. So the bottom line was they had early on created this policy that really, if somebody calls, you've got to work them into the schedule, no matter what. They had a past administrator. That was just her rule. She wanted to make sure that all schedules were jam-packed, and that's what mattered the most. Well, your values may not relate to that. And worse than that, it was one of those things that people kept just coming on the schedule, and then it was just perpetuated. When you set an expectation, that's what people have as their expectation. And it just started to get out of hand. Nobody really looked at the art of scheduling. scheduling? When is it, how long do certain appointments take? Are you giving it that period of time? When can you double book? When can't you? Can you triple book or can't you triple book? All these rules were put into place to maximize the volume of the schedule with no thought to what the act was actually going on in each one of those different appointments. Also, sometimes the patients came in and didn't have no one had researched and had all the results on their chart that they needed to have, so the physician could have the conversation that they needed to have with them. Things were missing. So anyhow, every single one that I met with knew basically what those problems were. And then when I asked them about potential solutions, they all had suggestions and they all had different ways that were overlapping that could make this better. Now, we are in the throes of making a lot of changes to the art of their schedule, but it's going to be messy in the middle. We know that. It's going to be a little bit of changing of expectations for patients and team members, how to schedule different roles and responsibilities. But in the end, it's going to be like fresh air in your lungs, like you have a fresh perspective. And I just can't wait for them to get to that point. When I'm meeting with someone and we went through that messy middle part and they get to the end solution, it is amazing to see. I've had another practice that was having trouble with team turnover, and come to find out there really wasn't a strong way to screen who they were hiring and also, more importantly, onboard them and orientate them. They were kind of just brought in and sort of thrown to the wolves. So it naturally created a bit of a turnover in the practice. And so that's something that we've had to put different processes into place. Oftentimes, if financial issues are the problem, we can come in and we can dive into some of those reports I mentioned in the previous podcast. If you haven't listened to it, please do. But if it's financial, it could be just really what you're spending money on, some habits that have come into play, and things that maybe the owner or those in charge don't even realize are going on in the practice. Definitely some ways to improve that. They also usually oftentimes don't have some key metrics that are being measured, or every month that they're measured, kind of there's an excuse for that month. You know, it was a month where we had 3 payrolls, or which does happen, I know, but really you have to plan for that, or they don't have a budget in place. There's always a way to fix things, and almost always in your gut, in your heart, not only you, but those in your practice, you know what the underlying problem is and you know what the solution is. It's just kind of hard to get there. So if you are suffering from this, you are not alone. Believe me, you are not alone. But that's why you want to recognize that you do have a problem, and that you probably know what it likely is, to explore that with your leadership team, and then solidify that that is the problem, and then get to work making an action plan to correct that problem. It is just as simple as that. And I know I say simple. It is hard work. It is stressful at times, but it's so worth it in the end. So anyhow, I just want to kind of help support you in that, help give you, that little extra oomph about the fact that you probably do know. If you want extra help figuring that out, please reach out to me, Carol, Karol, at weightlosspracticebuilder.com. If you're a part of membership, we address things like this every single month when we meet, as well as through all of our trainings, in addition to all the other resources that you get. And I am just honored that you're here for this podcast or watching this video on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And I look forward to having a chat with you. If you know there's something that needs to be addressed, but you might need a little help, like just figuring that out or putting together an action plan, please reach out to me. And if you want to know about Bariatric Business Accelerator, it's bariatricbusinessaccelerator.com. Thanks so much and have a wonderful week.